This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by heavyweight contender Fabio Wardley over Zoom. Fabio, firstly, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How's things?
All good. It's been a hectic few weeks to say the least. Obviously, we just had the Fury-Chisora press conference yesterday, amongst other things. But before we do come on to all of that, what is the latest with yourself? Of course, we know that the Nathan Gorman fight is basically ready to be announced. But what's the latest on your end you can update everybody with?
Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. It's pretty much done, dusted. We're just figuring out the last tiny little details and stuff. We both know when it's going to be. Pretty much, we know what we're doing. Just in terms of when it's going to release, we're both just kind of waiting to hear. So it's all pretty much done, dusted. It's been agreed and stuff for a long time. We knew what we were doing. We were just both sides were waiting on a few things. I had a couple of things I needed to sort beforehand and stuff. So we're pretty much there, done, pretty much signed, sealed. It's just as and when where we're going to put it out and what shows are going on.
What's been the hold up on it, Fab?
Obviously, I had an injury. I had surgery after my last fight, so I had something I needed to kind of fix, rehab, and go through enough process of time to make sure that wasn't rushed coming back into a camp. And then since then, we've just been kind of waiting to see where the end of the shows will land, and then obviously where we can go in terms of putting that fight on a card.
Obviously, you fought back in July. He fought soon around that period as well. How much of, well, I say how much rather, of his time in the ring with Thomas Salek, Nathan, what Nathan Fabio rather? What did you make of his performance, Nathan's performance against Thomas Salek?
Yeah, he looked good. There's not much to take from it, really, is there? It was a quick one rounder. There's not really too much you can delve into. He's not the most like Salek's not the most competitive person to be in there with. But on the same thing, neither was my most recent opponent either. So it's difficult for him or me to kind of look at our last fights and really take any real note from it because there was nothing really there to grab from. We just have to make sure we both turn up and be the best we can be on the night.
When you look at him and stylistically how you expect it to go between the pair of you, how confident are you that from what you've seen of him and maybe the lack of activity he's had will only benefit you and you'll be able to capitalize on that in particular?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. His lack of activity is a big factor because that ring rust is real. It's a real thing that your timing's a bit off. The way you come into the ring's a bit off. You might not have trained as much. He's struggled with his weight and stuff in the past. He's come in really heavy in fights. So if you're not training consistently, getting ready for fights, that can always be a factor. Whereas for me, I've been very consistent. I've been fighting quite regularly over the past couple of years or so, where he's had little spells of in, little spells of out and stuff. So they're definitely odds in my favour. But I don't expect him to take the fight lightly at all. I expect him to be training hard and getting G'd up for it.
So obviously, as we wait for this announcement, when you're hoping to have it officially announced, Fabio, and what period are we looking at? Just kind of thinking of potential shows coming up. You've obviously got the rumored White Franklin show for November 26th. I would imagine that may be the best slot for it to land on.
Yeah, that probably makes the most sense. That one, that's a card that's been discussed. In terms of it being released, probably within a week or so, something like that. There's no set time or day as of yet, but it'll probably be out within a week.
Just on that White Franklin fight, obviously Dillian's return. What do you make of Jermaine Franklin? Seems to be out there now. It will be him next. So yeah, what do you make of that fight?
Yeah, it's a good fight. I think it's the right fight for Dill and what he needs at this stage of obviously coming off the back of a loss to Fury. It's not too much of a walkover fight where it's just something for him to clean out in a round or two and not really get that time in the ring. He's got someone who's good, confident. You're having 20 odd plus wins or so. You're going to be have self belief like Franklin will have. So it's good that he's going to be in there with someone game. He's going to need time in the ring as well because obviously he's adjusted his training team as well. Started working with Buddy McGirt. So they need to work together. They need to implement things, and obviously the best place to do all that is in the ring on the night.
That Buddy McGirt link up. Talk to me about that, Fabio, because it kind of came out of the blue when it was announced.
Yeah, I think I don't know too much details about it myself really, but I just felt like Dill must have felt like he needed to change. He must have felt like a bit of a swap was needed, some sort of adjustment that he felt he must have looked at Buddy and thought his wealth of experience and will be something that he could add to his game. And I know Dill as a boxer, he loves to learn, like he likes to figure new stuff out and answers to questions that he may have had in the past and stuff that he previously himself might not have been able to figure out, whereas Buddy can offer an insight.
Fabio, away from Dillian, as you mentioned, he's coming in on the back of a loss to Tyson Fury, who he himself is getting ready for a ring return on December 3rd against Derek Chisora in his trilogy bout. Now, there's been quite a negative reception online in reaction to that fight announcement. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm probably not too far from the general consensus. I think the negativity comes from the fights you would, the list of fights out there that you would want to see Fury in. I don't think Chisora's in that list at all, really. I don't think anyone was really crying out for it, saying they wanted to see it, anything like that at all. Now, that doesn't necessarily take away from it the potential of it being a really good fight. There's always that possibility there, but as boxing fans, we want to see them big fights made in the prime of their lifetime when they're there and the opportunities are arisen and whatever complications came up for like the AJ fight not to happen. There's still possibilities that he could have worked on the Usyk fight or something like that. Potentially even the Joe Joyce fight would have been more interesting. Um, there's other options, but the Chisora one's happening. I think a lot of people with the criticisms will still watch. We'll still give it a look and see what's going on. But I think mostly it just came from it not being the one that really people wanted.
When you look at kind of the career of Derek and his most recent win with Kubrat Pulev, what do you feel he will still have to offer him that fight, because he's been spoken about how him and Tyson have got built kind of a good friendship over the years now, and some people are just kind of looking at it thinking, is this Tyson helping out a friend, or is this a genuine one to have this fight basically?
Um, I think Chisora will no Chisora will like say throw that out of the window when he's in the ring. He's not there to be your mate once he's in the ring with you. Like I don't think he's too fussed about that. But I think at least Fury on his part at least felt like he's picked the easier option of the ones that are out there. He's familiar with Derek's style. He's obviously fought him already a few times, so he knows what to expect when he's coming forward, and he watched his recent fights and stuff. And over the years, don't get me wrong, Chisora has brought a different level of intensity as he's gone on a bit and turned into this War Chisora, but the basis of his style has stayed the same. There's not really been a massive change there at all. So it's something Fury's aware of and is planned for. So maybe he feels like it's quite a safe bet to go for this fight. I think that's where, like I say, a lot of the kind of frustration of fans has come from.
Just on kind of that undercard, you've got Daniel Dubois versus Kevin Lerena. I don't suppose you know much about Lerena, Fabio.
Not massively, no. I know that obviously Daniel was initially scheduled, or at least put it to the board for him to fight Lucas Brown. And there was obviously a bit of uproar about that because it was just such a big mismatch, and the board, rightfully so, didn't sanction it. So yeah, I don't know much about his most recent opponent though.
Just with Daniel, then obviously there was talks of him potentially facing Dillian. Just to go back to Dillian, do you know anything about as to why that fight didn't materialize?
No, I know it's talked about, but I think Dill at the stage of his career, he was looking at a bunch of options, in terms of where to move his career and stuff. But I don't know why it did or didn't materialize. How much stock there actually was in it, whether it was just a brief kind of passing comment or whether it was serious conversations. I'm not really sure, but just because it didn't happen now doesn't rule it out for later. It's definitely a fight that could happen in the future. There's nothing really stopping it. Dill's fought on BT before, so he's familiar with their settings and whatever else. So it's not a massive jump to make.
Anthony Joshua, we're waiting for news on him. Fabio, seen a few names mentioned, the likes of Chris Ariola, Otto Varlin. What are your thoughts as to what you think would be next for him? Would either of those guys or anybody else who comes to mind you believe be a good first fight back?
Yeah, I think so. I think he needs one of those. He needs one of those get back fights again. A bit of a similar position to Dill that he needs. He's obviously started working Robert Garcia, and he had one camp to go through with him. But more time with him will work better for him. In that last fight he had with Usyk, he gave a real good of account of himself, and some of those stuff, obviously, that he was working with Garcia on has come out pretty well for him. So more time to kind of flush them out, hone them skills and stuff will be good for him. And for him to get in there with a slightly kind of, I say, lower class in the least disrespectful way possible, but a lower level opponent, not the kind of top 5 people to work on those skills with, will do him well, I think.
Right, Fabio, we'll leave it there now because I know I caught you when you was in the middle of doing your runs this morning. So I'm gonna leave you now to crack on and get on with your day. I appreciate your time, though. Thanks for speaking to me and ID Boxing.
No dramas, mate. Thank you, mate.
Top man. Cheers, Fabio. Thank you.
Cheers, bye bye.
Bye.